If you're watching this, you've likely been hit with a word that feels like a physical blow. Maybe it was in a text, in an email, or even a physical letter telling you why they're walking away. Words like toxic, narcissist, or even abusive. For a mother who stayed up during the long nights, who sacrificed her own dreams to better theirs, and who loved with every fiber of her being, these labels don't just hurt. They create a profound sense of identity shock. You look at your history and see a parent who tried. They look at the history and see a villain, someone who is the reason to blame for all of their shortcomings. Today, we're going to strip away the therapy speak and take a look at the real difference between a pattern of abuse and the simple, painful reality of being an imperfect human. If you're a mother who's been questioning your own sanity, then this video is for you. For clarity, we have to define our terms. Abuse is defined by a pattern to control, demean, or harm. It creates an environment where the child lacks consistent safety. It isn't a one-time blow-up or a misunderstanding. It is a consistent environment where one person's identity is dismantled for the other person's gain. It is calculated and it lacks remorse. Now, let's look at imperfect parenting. This is situational. It's losing your temper after a 12-hour shift. It's giving advice that felt like criticism because you were terrified for their future. Ultimately, it's communication with the best of intent, however, not the best approach. The key difference here is intent versus impact. You can have the best intention in the world and still have a negative impact on your child. But making a mistake that impacts someone negatively is not the same as being an abuser. One is a failure of approach and the other is a failure of character. We have to address the elephant in the room. And this is the way the word trauma has expanded. In previous generations, the word trauma was reserved for the most extreme cases of neglect or violence. But today, the bar for what constitutes as trauma has shifted significantly. For many adult children today, trauma includes things like having a parent who is too involved, a parent who expressed different political opinions, or a parent who didn't use the exact right emotional language during an argument or conflict. I, as a parent myself, can say it is a very confusing time to be a parent. Of course, it's important to validate that your child's feelings of being hurt are valid to them, but we also have to hold on to the truth that them feeling hurt does not mean that we were being malicious to them. You are allowed to disagree with their viewpoint of your past parenting. So why do they use these heavy words? Why call a good mother toxic? First, it's therapy speak. It's now the language of the internet. These labels create a moral high ground. If a child says, "Mom, I'm taking a break because we have different communication styles that just aren't working," they have to deal with the guilt of that choice. But if they say, "I'm cutting off a toxic narcissist," they become a hero of their own story. And they eliminate the possibility of having to do the hard work to mend a relationship. Second, it's a shortcut. Setting healthy boundaries like saying, "Mom, I don't want to talk about my job right now," or "I don't want to talk about politics right now," is hard work. It requires maturity and confrontation. It is simply much easier to label the parent as toxic or abusive and walk away than it is to do the hard work and sometimes repetitive adult work of staying in the relationship and navigating the friction. I call it carefrontation. I want you to take a deep breath and take a look at the whole story, not just the 3 things your child is currently magnifying, but the 20, 30, or even 40 years of history that you actually have. Did you provide? Did you apologize when you realized you overstepped? Did you put their needs before yours? If the answer is yes, then you are a good parent. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to be human. You were likely raising them while you were still healing from your own childhood, while you were worried about bills or relationships, or while you were just trying to keep your head above water. Being an imperfect parent does not disqualify you from being a good parent. Those 2 things can and usually do exist in the same person. The silence of estrangement is loud, and the labels are heavy and hurtful. But remember, a label is just a sticker someone else tried to put on you. It doesn't have to stay there. You were a human raising a human, and that is the hardest job in the world. And there is no such thing as a perfect score. If you have felt the weight of these hurtful labels like toxic, narcissist, and abusive, I want you to go to the comments right now and write, I am human. And I want you to remember, you aren't a villain. You're simply a mother who is doing her best. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.